Hey everybody, I hope and pray that you're doing well. Today as we come to our word from the word. And today that word is meaning. Meaning. Now, Jesus is known in his ministry, known to tell parables and stories that uh, some people didn't understand the point. Some people didn't understand what the illustration was supposed to be, while others understood perfectly well what it meant. And sometimes he would even go further and explain it in detail to his disciples. But a lot of times when the religious elite, as I often refer to them, the ones that just knew everything but would not believe in Jesus, it seems as though a lot of times Jesus would say something to them that they would catch bits and pieces of what he was trying to say, but then sometimes I believe they understood full well what he was trying to say, but they didn't like the fact that it applied to them, right? If he's putting them in those who would be rejecting the Messiah, and they say, "Oh no, of course not," and a lot of things, a lot of things that go along with that. But today, I want us to look as we continue on in Luke chapter 20, pick up where we left off yesterday, and we're going to start in verse 9 today, read through verse 19. So a little bit further than usual, but I want you to see the whole picture of this parable that he's giving them today. Then he began to tell the people this parable. A certain man planted a vineyard, leased it to vine dressers, and went into a far country for a long time. Now, at vintage time, he sent a servant to the vine dressers that they might give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty handed. Again, he sent another servant, and they beat him also, treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty handed. And again, he sent a third, and they wounded him also and cast him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Probably they will respect him when they see him." But when the vine dressers saw him, they reasoned among themselves, saying, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours." So they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. And when they heard it, they said, "Certainly not." Then he looked at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind him to powder." And the chief priests and the scribes that very hour sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew he had spoken this parable against them. They knew that this was against them. You go through the story, and just to summarize quickly, he is, and I encourage you to go back and read this and study this on your own. It's God is the one that has the vineyard. He sends his servants, right, to go and to reap some reward, to reap some of the harvest, and that represents the prophets that he's sending to his vineyard, Israel, that he's sending to them. And what happens? The religious elite, those who were supposed to be responsible for Israel, what did they do? They rejected the prophets. They beat them. They cast them out of town. They just treated them terribly. And so they rejected him, prophets, over and over again. And so then what does God say? He says, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to send my son instead. And when I send my son, they'll know then that, hey, this is the rightful heir, and this is the one who they'll respect him." But instead, they would kill the son. Now, the whole point is that these religious elite that are hearing the parable, they understand that he's talking about them. And they say, "No, we would never kill the son, right? We would never kill the messenger." But Jesus, that's why he gives them the other verses of scripture that he replies back when they said, "Certainly not." The whole idea of rejecting the stone that the builders had rejected, right? The building that they were building, it didn't fit. Jesus didn't fit their building. And sad to say, a lot of churches today, Jesus doesn't fit into their building because they're not building on Christ the solid rock. They're building on mankind, and they're building on their own thoughts and own feelings and own interpretations. They're not building on Jesus. So he says that stone that the builders rejected, That's the most important stone. That is the cornerstone. And so when the people, the religious, understand that Jesus is basically saying to himself, saying about himself that he is the most important one, and they are rejecting him, they thought then, they said, he's trying to say he's equal with God. He's trying to say that he's the Son of God. And they wanted to lay hands on him, but because of all the people there, and they didn't do it then. Now you remember, this is the week, right, leading up to his crucifixion. These are just days before. So you can see that even at the end, even as Jesus is in his final days, he is not backing up, he's not backing down, but he is very clear to let everyone know who he is and where they stand. Now, sometimes we say, well, why didn't he just come out and say it? Well, at times, because they wouldn't have listened anyway. And you also have to think about the culture. If that's kind of how they would teach and how they would handle themselves when they were teaching and sharing the message. But also, it all goes back to that simple phrase: he who has ears to hear, let him hear. If you want to hear from God, you will. And if you want to know the meaning, you will, if God allows it. And here, just like in other times, we see that the scribes and these religious ones, that they rejected Jesus. And they rejected his message. They rejected him. And in doing so, they have rejected God. They have rejected God's most precious gift. Now today, God may be laying on your heart that you've been rejecting him. And maybe he says, look, I've been sending someone time after time after time. Maybe it wasn't a prophet like it was in the Old Testament, but maybe he's sending you a preacher, sending you a friend, sending you a family member, sending you a message, right? I mean, in your spirit, sending you kind of hearing that knock on your heart, that he's saying, look, I want to have fellowship with you. But are you going to reject it? And then do like these vine dressers did, right? And then claim that, hey, I've been taking care of all this time. It belongs to me anyway. I'm not going to give any of it to God. Today, do you know the meaning? Do you know the meaning of this passage for you? Who would you be in the story? How would you be welcoming the Son? Because I tell you, the meaning of everything coming up at the end of this week, it all depends on how you look at Jesus, how you treat the Son. So will you welcome him in, or will you cast him out? The choice is yours. God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.